everyone. In today's lesson, we'll be discussing different causes of market failure. We previously have discussed the definition of market failure and had a cursory look at those causes, but now we'll be discussing those causes in depth. So the learning objectives for this lesson will be explain how external cost and external benefits cause market failure, and then we'll explain the other causes of market failure as well. Now, the first two causes of market failure are negative externalities and positive externalities. So basically, negative externality is the external cost that is incurred by the third party, which is not directly involved in the production or consumption activity of that particular product. For instance, if a tobacco company is producing cigarettes and the people are consuming those cigarettes, so the people who are consuming those cigarettes become the private consumers, and the company that's producing becomes the private incurs the private cost of producing that particular product. But the people who are getting harmed by the production, maybe in terms of the smoke that is created or the pollution that is created in the environment through the production of those cigarettes or tobacco, is considered to be as external cost. The formula for this is when the social cost exceeds the private cost, then occurs the external cost. That is, social cost becomes greater than private cost, which says that the private cost and social cost are no longer equal. Then it means that there is another cost present over there, and that is external cost. And this external cost is also known as negative externalities. Now, moving to the positive externalities, these are the external benefits that are enjoyed by the third party. But as the market fails to realize these benefits that can be enjoyed by the third party, they underconsume or underproduce that particular product. For instance, the provision of education, health care, or vaccination of people. Here, the social benefit is not equals to private benefit, which shows that there's another element present over there, and that is the external benefit, that is positive externality. Now, through the diagram, we will be seeing how this works. In this diagram, it is negative externality, which leads to market failure. So this is the negative externality in production. Here we see that there is, on the vertical axis, it's price, and on the horizontal axis, it's output or quantity of that product being produced. The downward sloping curve is demand, which is also equals to marginal private benefit, which also equals to marginal social benefit. So here we see the benefit side on the demand curve. On the supply side, we see the cost. So this is also the supply curve, and this is also the marginal private cost curve. Now we see here that the marginal private cost does not equal marginal social cost. So this area becomes the external cost, and we are not considering the external cost. Therefore, we are overproducing or over consuming that particular product. So external cost is not being included. If the external cost has been included, then this is going to be the new point, and the curve is going to be somewhere here. So the new equilibrium point would be here, considering the social cost of that product, and then the output would become Q2 and the price would become P2. So this area would become the dead weight loss. This entire triangle area would become the dead weight loss. Okay, so this is how the market failure occurs when we fail to realize the external cost of that particular product. Now you have to answer which of the following situation best describe the negative externality. You're given 5 options. You have to pick one option out of these options in order to see which explains the negative externality. Now in this diagram, again, on the vertical axis we take price, and on the horizontal axis we take output. This downward sloping curve shows demand, which is equals to marginal private benefit, that is equals to marginal social benefit. Whereas, as we see in the positive externality, we underproduce or underconsume a particular product, so we'll be producing at this point. Whereas, if we would have considered the social benefit of it, the external benefit would have been considered, then it would have been somewhere here. So, finding the equilibrium point, we would have gone up, and this would have been our new equilibrium, Q2 and P2. So from this line to this line, we did not consider the external benefit, and this area becomes the deadweight loss, this red area. Now, you have to answer this. How can planting trees create positive externality? Like how planting trees can create benefit for the third party, and you have to explain it through the diagram. Now, the further causes are under provision of merit goods. So basically, merit goods are those goods which are more beneficial for you than you yourself realize. For instance, the consumption of like getting vaccinated, or getting education, or using the right amount of healthcare facilities. Similarly, demerit goods also create the negative externalities. These are more harmful for you, for the consumers, than they themselves realize. For example, use of drugs or cigarettes, or anything that creates the negative impact on the society. Now, moving to the public goods have two salient features: non-excludability and non-rivalry. Why are these two the salient features of public goods? Because public goods ensure that their consumption is not going to exclude. If one person is consuming a particular product, it's not going to exclude the other person from consuming that particular product. Now, in this diagram, we further explain through pictures and examples how merit goods and demerit goods work. This is the picture in which there are different situations given, different pictures given. In this, you have to explain how does the consumption or production of these goods lead to market failure. Like each one of them, you have to explain individually. Further causes, if we look at more causes of market failure, then we see imperfect information. That is, that when you do not get to have the right amount of information about the factors of production, their availability, their prices, then you may tend to overconsume certain goods that are not good for you or beneficial for you, and underproduce the merit goods that are good or beneficial for the consumers. Moving to the monopoly, abuse of monopoly power. Basically, monopoly is one dominant firm in an industry that controls the entire industry, and that does not allow competition to enter into that industry, leading to barriers to entry. And when there are barriers to entry, that damages the welfare of the consumers. So monopoly is not a very acceptable form of practice in the market, but as the free market fails to realize the benefits or the harm that it can bring to the consumers, it occurs over there and leads to market failure. Factor immobility. Factor immobility is when the four factors of production, are not able to move from one place to another, which causes unemployment and productive inefficiency. There's a further explanation of information failure and abuse of monopoly power that I've extracted from the book. Now, in this picture, someone is out of the business. It says abuse of dominant market position. So basically, barriers to entry, is that how powerful monopolies are? You have to explain how monopolies can harm the consumers or producers, and how that leads to market failure. Are free market forces always bad? For the public, you have to critically analyze. Like here, you have to take both the pros and cons of the free market forces, and then you have to analyze, are they always good or bad? In the next lesson, we'll be discussing the consequences of market failure, and I'll be sharing certain articles with you on that too, so that you can have more detailed look at what basically market failure is, and what are the consequences, and how government intervenes to solve that problem. Thank you.